What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So last night we had an announcement for the final update for Mario Maker 2, and it fills in that blank spot, that last mode, and I have to say, it pretty much ties everything together. Seriously, this mode is a game changer. We're gonna talk about that mode and why it's such a big deal. Also, we have to talk a bit about this Metroid Prime listing that seemed to be spreading around the internet very quickly over the last 24 hours, and why it turns out that it was actually kind of a fake made up by a site that ended up going viral from there. And then also the PlayStation 5, and I guess possibly when it could be revealed, is starting to show up, but there are still some concerns and doubts around it still being on track. As always, guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below. And I want to start today with a bit of a sale on a game that popped up. A lot of times we'll talk about like this big eShop sale on all these games, but there's one I wanted to point out because it is a very good game. Recently, it's an indie game that was nominated for a Game of the Year, and I really like it. And it's going for $5 right now on the Switch eShop, and that is Celeste. If you've never seen it, heard of it, played it, I recommend buying it for $5. It's a very good game. The studio is a bit smaller. Obviously, it's an indie game, but it's like a really difficult but fair, I'll say, a 2D platformer. And it is worth playing through and checking out, and the story is pretty good, I'd say, as well. So just something to point out there, Celeste, if you're looking for something new to play at I'd say a very fair price of $5, go check it out. Also, we've been seeing a lot of ratings pop up pretty recently, especially ahead of like Nintendo Directs or Minis or any of those announcements. We usually see like some sort of classification or rating happen. Well, check this out. This is an interesting one because it is Unraveled. It's the first Unraveled that showed up on a ratings board pretty recently, and what's odd about this one is it appears to be there for the PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One alongside of the Switch. This is on the Brazilian classification board. Now, this game came out in 2016 already on those other platforms, and then here it is also on the Switch. I don't know if this is a mistake or something. It is also strange because the second one is already on the Switch, and I'm not really sure why they'd go back and get the first one and bring it over, unless it sold that well on the Switch when they brought the second one over and they figure, hey, let's go get the first one. But then why is it also being classified for the other platforms unless they have some like deluxe edition with new content that they want to bring out and resell, or maybe there's just like a free patch for other platforms and then the Switch gets just like the game and then the deluxe edition. It's hard to say, but it's odd that it would pop up on a classification board unless they had some sort of plan for it. Oh, and we've talked about Halo, as we've seen, of course, the Halo series make its way to PC. Currently have Halo Reach, the Halo Combat Evolved, and Halo 2 would be next, and it's already being tested. Yeah, people in the Insiders program are already checking it out on PC. This started at the end of last week. Around the 17th or 18th, emails were going out, getting people in, inviting them in to run some tests, and right now they are ironing out a lot of bugs in the game and getting it ready for launch. These are like their flights that they do just to make sure everything works as it should on different PC configurations and builds. And what's great about this is usually when they start rolling out these flights to insiders, that means the game it's getting close to being ready to actually release and put out there, which means that when Halo 2 comes out, which I know a lot of people like Halo 2, myself included, when it does drop, I'll be playing plenty of it on the PC since I just bought the Master Chief Collection on the PC outright. But that means that Halo 3 is around the corner, and that is my favorite Halo. And that's when I'm going to participate in the Halo flights, the closed or open/closed betas through email, so I can check it out and maybe even provide some feedback for that one. Because that is a game that I spent way too much time with. But it looks like Halo 2 could be showing up in the next month or two. Remember, they wanted to try to get all of the Halos out to the PC in that Master Chief Collection by the end of this year. So they still have a bit of time to get 3 and 4 done, but I'm sure they want to get 2 out as soon as they can. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with this Mario Maker 2 update. Now, Nintendo just kind of dropped this out of nowhere last night. There was a big trailer that played on YouTube that explained all the different things things around the update. And some of it was pretty cool outside of the big update, but some of the things were neat. We did see a mushroom that turns you into Mario from Super Mario 2. And what was really cool about that is you can, of course, pick up enemies and throw them and all of that. You also have the frog suit you can jump on, you can turn into and swim through the water with, a big rocket that you shoot around. But then they moved over to something that was really, really impressive. Here is the tweet that they put out kind of explaining this. A new mode, World Maker, arrives in the new Super Mario Maker 2 update. Build a route for your courses, customize with additions like bridges and hills, and create your own Super Mario World with up to 8 worlds and 40 courses. You can then share your creation in Course World. That's right. You can build your own overworld that connects several levels together to make, and I'm not even kidding, your own entire Mario game. Now they have 40 courses, which is pretty good. I don't know if they'll have different exits. We're gonna have to figure all of that out, but like that's massive. That is like the culmination of Mario Maker overall, because up to this point, of course, people are making levels that, I mean, they connect. Like you'll have a board and then you go through a door and it takes you to another part and like you run through but it's limited to that, right? Now you make your own, which by the way, they showed a full editor for the overworld part where you're doing bridges and you're moving like the land around, you got water stuff. Like it's like, from what they were showing, it looked like from the Super Nintendo, but what everyone wanted to be able to do back then, which was make your own overall Mario world without, of course, having to know how to program and design and do all of that. This is amazing. And the fact that you can share it online means that like there's so much value now in Mario Maker that wasn't there before, right? Not just individual levels, entire Mario games. And I can't wait to see what people do with this. And now I'm really going to go back because I kind of fell out of Mario Maker a bit after, of course, you go through levels. You're like, this is pretty cool. And then you go through like your 20th level where you don't even move and you're like, it's fun. But the idea of being able to download entire Mario worlds is amazing, entire Mario games. This is what people have been doing for the longest time with ROM hacks on the Super Nintendo, for example, just recreating stuff like Mario Return to Dinosaur Land, just as an example on the Super Nintendo. You're basically going to be doing that here in Mario Maker 2. So yeah, I'm excited to check it out. Massive update. It is, according to them, their final update, and that may be disappointing for people considering we saw that spot and some people were like, wouldn't that be cool if it was just Mario 2? Wouldn't that be cool if it was Mario Galaxy? I have to say though, if I had to take this entire course builder, where you basically make an entire world, right? Entire world builder, or Mario Galaxy where you have to stay on one planet, or Mario 2 where you have to stay in one level, I would take the world builder. That is massive. So yes, I will be looking forward to this one. It comes out the 22nd, so tomorrow, check it out. I'm gonna be going on there to see what people come up with, and even, you know what, I might actually play around with the editor for this. I don't usually, but this is pretty cool. So I probably will check that one out, and that's tomorrow. So make sure you jump on to Mario Maker 2 and see what people are making. Next up, we have a little update right now for the Switch production. Of course, the Switch is very hard to find, which is leading right now to resellers making a ton of money as these things are selling for $400 to $500 all day long online just because you can't find them anywhere. Well, it looks like Nintendo is trying to respond here, and Nikkei did put out a full write-up talking about how Nintendo is looking to boost production by 10% in 2020. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but let's say they're going to produce 18 million Switch systems. That's an additional 2 million just about for the year. So that spread over the time of 12 months does give, I would say, a fair bump to the overall production, because they do have to have parts suppliers be able to meet demand as well. They can't just say, we're doubling production, and the parts suppliers will be like, oh, cool, we're good then, we'll do that. Because you have to deal with things like flash memory and RAM and all of this. A lot of things go into it, screens, others. So it will be kind of difficult, but this was also a quote saying, we hope suppliers will be responsive to the production increase, but for procurement of some parts, the outlook remains uncertain, and we can't forecast exactly how many Switches can be supplied. So a lot of that, of course, also comes down to the current situation with the virus in the world, and really just Nintendo trying to push more and more Switch systems out as demand is just way higher right now than supply. So it's tough, I get it, but hopefully they can get more of them out there. And keep in mind, they also have, I believe, May 7th, so right at the end of the first week of May, they'll be doing their usual investors report and putting out numbers and all of this, and that will cover their entire previous fiscal year that ended at the end of March. So we'll get a look at how many systems they sold, and that's like 10 days, 11 days of Animal Crossing, which surely pushed a ton of Switch systems. So hopefully that got them over the mark and they didn't run out of gas essentially from their supplies that were kind of stockpiled for Animal Crossing, and they were able to make their, I think they had it at 18.5 million, if I'm not mistaken, for what their projection was. So if they got 19, that's pretty good. And then we'll see if they bump it up to like 20 for this year coming up, because supply constraint could be an issue for probably the next, I would say, 2 months. Next up, let's talk about Metroid Prime Trilogy, because why not? All right. Well, there was a website that started to talk about a Best Buy listing for Metroid Prime Trilogy, and even pushing the idea of a collector's edition being spotted on the website. And well, you can see the site's heading here where they kind of talk about it in a big title there and a picture. Now, when I first saw this, because trust me, when these things happen, I have a lot of people send me these websites and these screen grabs and all of this. I looked at it and I said, oh, that's a fan mock-up. I don't really know what this website is doing, because that Best Buy listing has been up for a while. They've had Metroid Prime Trilogy listed at any one time for like the past 2 years. It's been a while, at least like a year and a half or so. So to hear about a Best Buy listing, which they also list a lot of other things, Metroid Prime 4 has been up there and others. I think there's Persona 5 on the Switch, and most recently they listed 3D World, Mario 3D World for the Switch, which actually is pretty accurate. So hey, good for them. But Metroid Prime Trilogy will eventually show up. However, the collection edition that they did post is a fan mock-up from like the end of 2017. In fact, once I saw it, I recognized it because that was something that I remember coming across way back when. I think it was on a Reddit or it was posted on Twitter, but here's the fan mock-up. So unfortunately, this Metroid Prime Trilogy listing caused a ton of confusion. It really spread online. A lot of sites reported on it, and it unfortunately was just a website, I guess, just seeing the Best Buy listing, or they weren't sure, or they saw maybe a posting on a forum or something about this popping up, or hey, maybe they had it sent to them on Twitter, because I know about all kinds of Best Buy's listings because they always get sent to me, but a lot of times, I'll tell you now, the dates are placeholders. They don't really know. It pops up in their system so that they can have a SKU, an SKU number assigned to that title so that they will be ready for their internal reporting and shipping. And then if anything needs to change while it's in transit or after reveal, they'll do so. Box art and all of that as well. So now, unfortunately, Best Buy didn't get us any closer to Metroid Prime Trilogy releasing, and they didn't show us the collector's edition. They just showed us a mock-up that they found online and then cropped it for their, I guess, the picture that goes along with their heading on their website. Hopefully, Prime Trilogy shows up. I think it went through some issues because Prime 4 did, and maybe Nintendo learned that it's not a great idea to put out these collections if you're not sure that the game's going to be ready within a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Look what happened with Bayonetta. The collection comes out, and we're still waiting for Bayonetta 3. So yeah, I think it's better to have Prime Trilogy ready to go a year and a half before Prime 4 comes out, so we might not even see Trilogy until next year. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a little bit about Sony and their PlayStation 5. We had just talked yesterday about Daniel Ahmed kind of alluding to the idea of showcases for games and a system like the PS5, or maybe a system like the Xbox Series S, the cheaper model, showing up earlier than we would expect, since E3 is pretty much canceled. IGN's going to step in and do their own digital event where they get a bunch of companies together. It's not going to be like the old days of E3, at least this year. We'll see about next year. So Sony and Microsoft are kind of just all over the place right now, figuring out what they want to do. And the word right now is, according to Video Games Chronicles, you can see that here, VGC, they do mention that a source claims that the PS5 event was set for May. So next month, possibly in 2 to 3 weeks, we could hear about the PS5, maybe a big blowout event. Maybe we finally see the system or a silhouette of it, or I don't know, they'll show us the game cases. They'll do some little thing to get hype going again, and maybe they'll show us a game that we can look forward to that's not a third-party game like, Outriders or Godfall. Now, the other reason people are leaning towards a possible early May even, is because May 13th, they will be putting out their earnings report for this previous fiscal year, which ends on the same day that Nintendo's ends. So it's going to be like the week after Nintendo puts their information out, Sony will put theirs out. And then they're also going to be meeting with investors a few days later. So remember, they showed investors the PS5 running Spider-Man to show confidence that, oh, this thing is really, really cool. You speed through the city and all of this, right? They wanted to show that they were on track to release this system. So there is a chance, as many people are speculating now, that they will want to show the PS5 in some form, and there are no strangers dropping information online like they did with the DualSense, right? Maybe even a game, some kind of big blockbuster to help launch the system ahead of that investors briefing, because most likely they will be getting questions about it, since even they don't know what's going on, and this system would then be out in like 6 months, right? In November, we're thinking, yeah, 6 months after that investors briefing. They might want to know about how Sony's going to launch this big system come holiday. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Paint Fat Purple saying, man, hopefully NVIDIA is working on some insane custom chip for Switch 2, and don't give me none of that battery life mumbo jumbo. They can figure that out. So here's the good news with NVIDIA and Nintendo. There is a reason for NVIDIA to actually design something for a Switch 2. There's a reason for them to push the Tegra forward for things other than self-driving cars, which is what they've been working on. Putting into a self-driving car is much different than putting it in like a little tablet device like the Switch is currently in its hybrid state. Putting it into a car is a bit easier to cool the chip and have much more room for it to have things around it on the boards that they were using. Having a chip that would be designed with Nintendo's needs in mind, custom, it could actually drive the Tegra forward in a very meaningful way for consumers, because that also means it could find its way into the Shield TV, right? That'd be pretty neat to have a set-top box next to it from NVIDIA that, sure, a lot of people don't buy, but for consumers and enthusiasts that really want it, it is there. That'd be good. And of course, that means that the Tegra most likely could really make a big jump in graphical capabilities, as the chip we're currently using is from 2015, the X1. It's still on pretty old architecture and all of this, so it would see a pretty substantial jump if NVIDIA actually put the time, money, and resources into developing for it. So that's what I'm most excited about, because no one really knows what the Tegra could look like in a Switch 2, but everyone's pretty excited for the idea. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is this Super Mario Maker 2 update, World Builder. That is amazing, right? 40 different courses in a world that you put together is really, really cool. Up to 8 worlds. So I'm gonna be checking that one out. Let me know if you're all of a sudden dusting off Mario Maker 2, or maybe you've been playing it this whole time and your mind was just blown seeing that update coming out tomorrow. Also, what do you think about Nintendo bumping up Switch production? And then when do you think the PS5 will be shown? Do you think it'll be shown before that investors briefing on May 17th? Before or after? Or do you think they're just gonna wait until like July to show the thing? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.